Hello there, Mandy here. Restorative Grief with Mandy Capehart is not just a podcast. It's also a book, a free online grief group, and a one-on-one private coaching practice. If you are interested in learning more, visit mandykapehart.com to find out how restorative grief can help you heal heart, mind, body, and spirit. Welcome back to Restorative Grief with Mandy Capehart. You are listening to episode 225, titled Living in the Low with Justin McRoberts and Scott Erickson. Have you ever found yourself in a season that feels like the lowest point? A place where everything familiar slips away, and you're not sure if you're meant to climb out or simply sit still for a while? Every griever I have met can tell you their own story of the low, the experiences and the sensations of it, and sometimes how often they've returned to it. So today, we are talking with the co-authors of a beautiful new work titled In the Low, Honest Prayers for Dark Seasons. And hopefully, we'll leave this conversation with a sense of how prayer and intention can bring us back to a sense of safety, even amid ongoing darkness. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Restorative Grief with Mandy Capehart. I'm your host, Mandy. And today I am very, very lucky to bring you a conversation about the places we try to often avoid, that valley, the shadows, and the space where truly our faith, our hope, our creativity, and our brokenness all meet. So my guests today are Justin McRoberts and Scott Erickson. Justin is an author, coach, speaker, songwriter, as well as the host of his own podcast called At Sea. And Scott is an artist, author, performance speaker, and creative curate. So together, they've created a multitude of projects, actually, designed to stir up hope. And the latest of which, in my current favorite, is called In the Low, Honest Prayers for Dark Seasons. Oh, I'm holding up my copy as well, because we all are.
Everybody together.
We've all got it. I'm so excited to talk with you guys today. Thank you for being here.
That was such a cute little Voltron moment just now.
It's going to be in the record books for how cute and perfect we can be on podcasts, which is important.
Yeah. That's the vibe.
Well, thank you for both of you being here. I know having a couple of conversations offline just now, I can tell that you are both so beautifully aligned in the work that you do and the reason you're creating work like this. Can you each tell me just a little bit about what brought you into this kind of work from where you started and what it means to you? Justin, we'll start with you.
Okay, great. This particular work, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it is a wonderful feeling to find yourself in alignment with someone who's kind of in the same water, same waves. So 2014, 2015, when Scott and I met together and started talking about what the things we were wanting to see happen, the things we were wanting to make and why. Wanted to help people reframe how they engage with their own prayer practices. And then a few years ago, when we were chatting about like what are you making that matters to you, basically, like what are you making that feel like just kind of bubbling.
Yeah.
And Scott had been writing these poems and prayers and drawing these images around his own like things that were helpful for him with regards to his own experiences in the low and depression. And I'd been doing the same. And that's like magic for like a public creator to be like, what are you doing? I'm doing this. I'm doing the same thing. Let's see if these things actually fully align. And so we started assembling from there. It really bubbled out of, it grew out of the like Scott and I both doing things that we needed doing. Like these are words I need to find a different set of words for what I'm experiencing, because I'm like, this book is nice, but it's not really helpful. This book is informative, but that's not really helpful. What are the words that I need? And that's, for me, that's where the most enjoyable work comes from. Is like I'm making something that I need, and he was making stuff that was really similar.
Yeah, I love that. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, that's the Genesis story. I mean, it really is true. Like, I think when you've dedicated yourself to a craft or a practice, then and then that becomes your vocation. You are like, all right, I'm in the midst of something. What does this look like? And I'm remembering that that specific year I had dedicated myself to collaboration. So I like every trip that I took a friend with me because I never do that just because I was like, oh, I'm gonna not make as much money, but what would that be like? And then, when Justin has made more books than me, uh, just meaning like, you kind of have these ideas that you're like, could this be a product? And so then when he's like, what are you working on? And I was like, that was in my list of like future books. And then he was like, I'm doing the same thing. I was like, okay, I'm seeing this invitation to go, okay, all these pieces are coming together.
Mm.
And then, and it's a great, it's, I'm the like, I'm, what am I in, what am I in our relationship? I'm the kind of, how would you describe it? I mean, Justin said to me, he's like, when you're on, you're on. When you're off, you disappear. So that's kind of like working with me, is that there was this kind of waiting for the muse to say go.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I don't know if it's interesting to the listeners, but I'm going to say it is. Like, our publisher was like, cool, we signed the contract. They're like, well, can't wait to have this book in 6 months. And then 6 months came and we're like, we turned in nothing. And they're like, how about 3 more months? We're like, yes. And then we turned in nothing. And they're like, how about 2 more months? And we're like, got it. And then we turned in nothing. And then 3 months later, they're like, nope, nothing. And then I was like, I think we're ready to go. And then, and then, and then from, it was like April to August, it was like 6 months. We just like, it was there. It was just like dedicated space and time. So, and the publisher's fine because they're just working on their own launches and stuff like that. But
Sure.
there
One
is some,
would assume.
yeah. I mean, there is like a creative work. There is like a pushing through at times of just like that's usually at the end where you're like, I just got to get this out. But I think there's also a paying attention of when the thing is ready to like come through, and yeah, that was the right time. So that's I think Justin could probably speak to this too, but or we'll move to the next question. But I think that's as a committed artist, I have lots of things that are brewing, but it is a part of listening of like, but yeah, when does this want to like enter into the world?
Yeah.
And that is going to be also aligned and partnered with my life and what's going on and all the things. It's just kind of this, that's kind of like mystical experience of it all. Yeah.
Yeah, like we've all picked up a piece, whether it's a book or it's a record, or like, do people say record anymore? It's
Yeah, they do.
do they say
Yeah.
record now? Okay, good.
Yeah.
It's coming more back.
Whether it's a book or a musical recording, and you can feel the difference between like this actually comes from like this person's bones versus like
Yes.
they needed to finish this because the deadline. And one of the gifts I think of this book, and specifically, but like one of the gifts that Scott really does bring to the table, and I said it in a harsher way. I said, when you're on, and when you're not, you're gone. But like you can, like, the work that Scott puts in the world, he's someone who, like, if it actually gets released, that he really was ready. And if he really was ready, then it's something that actually, like, he's honestly processed that thing, that he does the thing. And I wish more artists did, is like, let that go when it's ready, because then it'll actually be what you want it to be, and then it'll actually, like, matter, and it won't just feel like one more thing out there that looks like other things. And so this book particularly, I mean, like, there are ways in which, folks, the question folks will ask, how long did it take you to write this? I'm like, like 52 years ish.
Yeah.
Like, there are ways in which this book, and most of the books that I've done, like, they're like from years and years back. And like, we were collecting these things for a long time, and then they stewed, and they were just mine. It was like that whole Mary thing is like, she just cherished that in her heart. The Spirit of God says, you're pregnant with God. And she's like, I'm gonna hold on to that for a minute.
Yeah.
And but probably not process this out loud for folks. So yeah, like the book came from a long, good process that was actually important to us personally first.
Yeah. I think what you just said there, and to echo what you said earlier about when the muse strikes, Scott, is such a beautiful piece to wrap up why this book is the right time for now, because the heaviness that we've been under collectively as a culture for the last, how long do you need to look back, right?
I'd
Hasn't
say
been
back like a
something.
year, and then like 2 years before that, there was like 4 years of it.
There's,
Yeah.
yeah, and maybe 10 if we're honest.
Mhm.
Um, there has been a need for a return to the hopefulness of prayer and the openness of prayer. But there
Yes.
has been, I mean, even in my own life, a complete lack of trust going toward pieces or books or even people who say, remember the value of prayer, because there's that tone underneath it that says, because it will lift you out of these low places,
Yes.
because it will make things better. And as a grief educator, I am constantly battling with, actually, the gray space, the low space is good. It's
Yeah.
necessary. It's why trees go roots down under the soil.
Yes.
So what does it mean to you to stay in that low space and to provide an invitation for people into that space rather than to rush past it or push through it?
Honestly, there are ways in which it really is. I mean, like we hope the book is helpful to people personally. We hope that like, the messages for the most part that I'll get are like, I got a message from someone yesterday who's a mom and she's like, I got this book for my son-in-law and his family and some family members and like that stuff I love. Like I want this to be helpful personally. And then at the level you're talking, like I also hope that it does some cultural work,
Mhm.
because if it does anything culturally, it might just kind of be a little bit of a prophetic pushback against like the mechanizing of absolutely everything, including prayer, because the key and to me and what you just said is like prayer will do this for you.
Yeah,
Prayer will lift you up.
right.
I don't think the real problem there is that prayer is prayer becomes like a tool by which we get ourselves out of depression. I think the real problem there, because sometimes it does, sometimes that's what happens. It's really more like that prayer is a thing I use to get somewhere else. The prayer is a thing I use to accomplish, which then like it couches the entirety of my spiritual practice in like getting somewhere as opposed to like being someone.
Mhm.
So part of what I hope that this adds to is a pretty substantial cultural pushback against the mechanizing of personal religious practices that like you're not gonna get better by becoming someone else. You're gonna become a better version of yourself. So if prayer does something for you, it doesn't lift you out of your situation, doesn't change your situation, it actually makes you more, hopefully makes you more acquainted with, more comfortably acquainted with exactly where you are. And so the question is less like, hey, how do I use this tool to get myself over here, or out of this place, and more like how can I learn to pay attention to the voice and the presence, and the sound, the feel, and the smell of God where I am, exactly as I am, because the chances are, friend, like you're gonna live there. Like this is you now. You get to 40, like that's who you are now. So can you become acquainted with who you are? And that is, I think, the long work of prayer. And I hope this book adds to that
Yeah.
cultural pushback.
Mm.
Do you
Go
want
ahead.
me to answer on that one?
Yeah.
Um, the, yeah, I think there's the goal of prayer is to eventually be silent in the presence of love. That is, and Jesus lets us know that at the beginning, right before he gives what we call the Lord's Prayer. He says, "Your Father in heaven knows everything you need before you ask. So then, when you pray, pray like this." So it's the all you already know.
Mm,
Now, one of the things that Justin and I really worked out language wise on our first prayer book was that prayer is not our words or our images or songs. Prayer is this interior, ever present, ongoing conversation that you're already having
Yeah.
with God. Now, that gets covered up in the noise and busyness and the ego and the fear of life. And so these words and images and music can be like, they're like excavation tools. They help like open that up. And we've all had this experience where we've like heard somebody recite a prayer and we go, or, there's a certain moment where you just go, ooh, yeah. What are you saying? It's like, oh, that line resonated with something deep in me, which is all something that's already there. And so, prayer is less magic making. It's less being a wizard, standing there trying to change the world. Prayer is more of being, removing the fear of, am I all alone in the world? And does God not see me? And, and because that is like, there are so many things about this world that we have no agency to change, but we do have agency to be rooted in love and how we're going to respond to the stranger who comes in our midst, the news that we receive, the things that happen. And I think that's one of our deepest longings in prayer. So with this book is like part of the premise is like, but does that spirituality die in the numbness of the low or in depression? And what we're saying is like, actually depression, we don't say this in so many words, but I would say now is like depression is a precursor for change. Like it's necessary to go into this metaphor, this low place, because then you really go, I don't know if I want to live like this anymore. I don't really know if I want to play this character anymore. I think the things that I've been doing don't work anymore and I'm being invited to change. It's only in that slowing, your body going, I'm going to shut everything down so you pay attention to me. It's only in that then we can begin to address like the deeper call of the spirit in us to change. And so we, through making this book, we're just like, oh, the low, this place, metaphorically, mystically, mythically, this low is this place of transformation, a necessary transformation. So if you are like, especially if you are like seeking God and you're like, God, do something with my life. It's not going to be like, cool, here's all the money you need in your bank account, and here's orgasms every day, and then here's like all the face, all the body work you wanted to have done, and here's all the clothes you want. That's not how it's going to start. If you're like, God, do something with me, it's like, great, let's sift out what the ego is preventing you from. Let's send you into the low to begin to transform you into prayer. And that is the history of all human beings. And so what we found was like, when we looked this up, is that there wasn't anything that, at least in this model of like a prayer book through the low. And when you find real estate on the internet, you're like, woohoo. It's also a subject in a culture of ascent that doesn't get a lot of action either. So it's not that attractive to the David Goggins, I don't know why I'm just thinking David. I'm trying to think of, I don't even listen to all these like up and up and up and up. The Rachel Hollises, whoever's just like, keep getting better, keep getting better, keep getting better, keep getting better.
Yeah.
It's like, keep getting better isn't a path of wholeness.
No.
Unless keep getting better is like, hey, what wants to change in you?
Yeah.
What is not important that you have been said that you need to believe is important? I don't know, that kind of stuff.
Well, and I think what you just nailed so heavily is and it's the same thing I deal with grief conversations, is recognizing, I know and I can see in you that your ego is driving the conversation, that it's protecting you and keeping you very safe. And I love that for you, because it's been really good companion. It's also holding you back. And when you come into a place of feeling hopeless and helpless and recognizing like, I don't see a pathway out, this is despair, that humility that accompanies the recognition of, well, actually, I'm a whole person, and it's not just my head that needs attention. It's my heart, it's my spirit, it's my body. All of these pieces deserve a slower approach, and one that doesn't keep trying to use the word better, but redefines, what do I actually want? Because people come to me and say, oh, I want to feel better. That's why I want to do grief work. I'm like, that's the wrong reason to approach grief work, because it won't make you feel better. Better is irrelevant here. Grief work is about recognizing all these patterns and making a decision to still love yourself and show up for who you are in the end. And I think that that's part of what I've always loved about the work that the two of you have produced, is that drawing back into a place of stillness and kind of reverence for the human that you are in the process that you're in. But what I have also witnessed, and I'm curious about your take on this, is people who have been in churches their entire lives, or for me, I was a worship leader for 16 years. So when I walked away from that,
Congratulations.
oh, thank you. The relationship that I had, not just to prayer, but to the concept of slow down, pray, meditate, reflect, do some inner work, was a little bit tainted by cultural messages of church, and or even personal relationships with people in church that made all of it very difficult. So how would you see people who are, I mean, call it the deconstruction community if you want to, but it's so much broader than that. People who are in that state of, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense anyway, and I'm still not sure how to trust it. How would you draw them into the work?
Well, I'm gonna take one step back and then come back to this. You said I think a second ago, you said the pieces of you that deserve attention and not just my head. I would push further than that and say the part of what depression does is those pieces actually demand it. So they don't just deserve it, they'll come get it. Like you are designed to have like a relentless hunger for wholeness and connection. And your soul just won't let you live a whole life like from beginning to end without like letting you know. And specifically for a lot of us, like your body at some point will just start telling you. And
Mm.
your soul, your body, like you will ask for it. Our bodies tell on us long before our brains are ready to like acquiesce to what our bodies are saying. And a
Yeah.
massive part of what depression is, it like all this garbage that's been like, not all of it's garbage, all these messages, all these like all this information that's living in our shoulders and our necks and our backs, like all this stuff will eventually start screaming and say, like, you can either start having a conversation with me on my level, like on the physical level, or I'm gonna shut things down.
Yeah.
That's part of what depression is like it's the demand of the aspects of our personhood that have not been getting attention, that like we're not going to go on anymore. So they more than just deserve, I think, they demand it. And then the thing he's talked about being as a person, like I wasn't a worship leader. Yes, I was. Um, but like being a church person for a long time, in the same way that like persons have fault, we live with a false self for a while, and we can be thankful for that false self because that ego, like it protects you. Well, institutions have false selves as well.
Mm.
And like the season has changed, and we've come to a point in the very, very short history of how we practice religion in America. It's not been very long. But the way we've gone about doing this, like it's no longer helpful.
Mm.
And so that's good. It's a good moment. And which is to say, it's like I hope to help, and I do the best I can to help reframe the moment that we're in culturally as well. That like, what if it's not like all these places have been corrupt from the beginning and we're just now waking up to it? But what if the usefulness of that particular structure and that particular model like has run its course, and
Mm.
it's rethink reinvention time, but we can't really rethink and reinvent until we fully let go of what we used to have, and we really can't fully let go of what we used to have until we're sad enough long enough to say, well shit, I guess it's over.
Yeah.
And I think that's the moment we're actually in. Scott's got this image that I come back to a lot. It's the crab on the crab in the, is it a crab? No,
It's a hermit crab.
hermit crab in the church. I don't know if your viewers have seen this. It's a fantastic image. Is
Yeah.
And that's what they do, is they live in a shell for a little while, then they outgrow the shell, and then they move on.
Yeah.
I think that's the cultural moment we're in which like instead of saying like, well, it must have been corrupt from the very beginning and I've now woken up to see it, or whatever, or like, hey, how do we maintain what we've had? Like, no, just let it die. It was good while it lasted, and there were so many beautiful, wonderful things that came from it, and it's time to build something new.
Yeah. The line on that image is, um, the shell was never your home, the ocean is.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is just something that you put yourself in that fit for a while, but then you grew out of it. And then you'll need to, and the thing with the hermit crab is that then it'll take on another thing. And I think maybe there's a bit of we just should normalize that we can outgrow things for a while. Like when I just thought I was like, do you think that you're supposed to go to a church service every Sunday for the rest of your life?
Oh my
Like,
God. The
I
day I
haven't done.
finally like said no, that we're not doing that anymore, I was like, okay.
It's just like
Okay.
that isn't evolving like you're evolving, you know?
Yeah.
Like I really believe in the ceremony, and I think the consistent ceremony is helpful in some ways, but the problem is that well, I don't know, there's many problems, but it's just like often those communities don't change those things. It's like a bit of a business model. I don't know. It is more of like paying attention to what is happening to you.
Yep.
I think a lot of, I don't really call it my deconstruction, but I would say like my faith, the way that I practiced my faith in my 30s stopped working for me. And I was like, oh, none of these things that I do or think, they don't work anymore.
Yep.
And so I was like, is this over, or am I just needed to be invited into a different kind of community? And there was like, what helped was like poets really helped describe my experience. Franciscans really helped me with like practices that were based in the natural and physical world that speak to a deeper spiritual world. So I outgrew a thing because there was something, because the spirit, as I think Paul says, is like, Christ is the author and perfecter. The spirit is the author and perfecter of our faith. So something is happening to you. You're being led somewhere. And then all of a sudden you're like, what's the next place for me? What's that? And I don't understand that. And that kind of liminal space. But then I think that there's can be this model of like, when we come through change, we're like, I'm noticing I'm changing, then we must apprentice ourselves to what is new and going, has anybody else felt this way in the history of humans? Has anybody else come to this spot in their lives and go, I don't know what to do next? And then did they leave a trail, an artifact of that? It turns out that's what poetry, art, tradition, all of these things are. It's just like leaving a trail of like, this is what other people before you had to do. And so when I started finding that trail, and it led to my own thing, and even asking just like what's next for me, then adopting those things and integrating them in my life as my own expression. So um I completely forget what the original question was, but I really liked where I went with all of
I,
this.
I
like it
like
too.
that as
It's
well.
great. I think that's the magic of a podcast. You can say what you need to say.
Yeah.
I'm curious too, when you think about paying attention to the creatives and the artists and the poets who've come before us and catching the thread that you can follow that feels authentic and feels like home for you on this new, you know, pathway that you're on. How would you speak to the people who are making that brave choice, because it is, and simultaneously fielding all of the criticism and the unkindness and the attempts at curiosity that really are just judgment in disguise as they're trying to expand and say Sunday mornings don't work for us, but you know what does? Small groups on Thursday nights.
Yeah.
How do you invite that person to stay present with themselves through those relational changes?
Yeah, I'm going to answer this one first, Justin, if that's cool. Somebody asked me last year, they're like, "Are you still a Christian?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean that what that term can mean in this country, I'm very
Yeah.
not a part of and off brand of, but I was like, I would call myself a Christian still because two reasons. One is a Christocentric worldview hasn't really failed me. Now I've had to become a lot broader in what that means, and I've had to let a lot of things go, but as in, if Christ is the visibility of the invisibility of God, then I see that to be true in the world, that there's many instances where something that we know to be real, which is invisible, makes itself visible. And I do think Christ, at least as a pattern of what it means to be uh, a really the pattern of a good human, I see that in Christ. And so I am aligned with that, kind of following that model. The second thing is a bit of a paradox, and this is where I think that the tension can come from. And the paradox is this, is that I grew up in an institutional religion that gave me a lot of really good things. youth group, community, liturgy. I'm really grateful for it. It has also been proven to be a harbor for snake oil salesmen and misogynists and racists and homophobes and people who say they don't care about the world that God created. And and there's so much hypocrisy in it, and it's so heartbreaking. I think there's an aspect of my life that is just like deeply heartbroken at the fallacy, at the hypocrisy of it all. Paradoxically, people keep telling me their mystical stories, and I keep having mystical experiences. People keep telling me like I had this presence with God, the divine, the universe that I can't explain, but it was very intimate and large, and it transformed me. Whether it's on a mushroom journey, whether it's standing in line at Disneyland, whether it was like in a moment of physical therapy, like this one woman told me about, like, so something's going on in the world, and where my practice is now, and what I would tell people is like, I understand that the sadness or the bitterness but it wants to close your heart and close your eyes to that something's happening. And so I don't want that to close what's happening. I want to still be available to what is going on. And so now, and I kind of got this from Justin when he gave this for the book, where he's like, we substitute mechanics for the essence. Like, so we're attracted to the essence, and then we build mechanics around it. And then at some point we just become obsessed about the mechanics, and we forget about the essence, even when the mechanics stop leading us to the essence. And so we're like, oh, but this mechanics, this tradition, this format. And I've just kind of said, hey, something is happening. And anything that humans build around the something is happening is going to be full of human fuckery.
Yeah.
It's going to be full of their own unhealth. It's going to be full of their own abuse. That's why we have checks and balances. That's that's why we have accountability between leaderships and stuff like that. Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Any human being put in a place of some kind of power is going to trip up.
Yep.
And so if we just know that, then it's okay. I just, from like, anything that's built around it is just going to have something. It doesn't mean that the essence is not true, though. It doesn't mean that something's not happening anymore. So that's kind of how I navigate that.
So two recommendations is, one is this great book called In the Low. You should absolutely Voltron moment. Boom.
I am a leg.
You should get there. But then also it's Amy McNee. I think that's how you say her name. Amy McNee's book, We Need Your Art, is a fantastic resource.
Oh, nice.
Great. She's fantastic. And I'll start there. And what Scott got to just now, that there's the thing, and then there's the way we do the thing. And we tend to confuse the two. And we do this in relationships too, where it's like, this is how we meet and we date in our 20s, and then we get real serious, and then we're in our 40s, and a lot of us has changed, and we think that the way we were doing our relationship in our 20s should still be working. And then if the way we were doing our relationship in our 20s doesn't work in our 30s and 40s, we think there's something wrong with the relationship. But it's like, how are you doing this? That's true on the cultural level. Like, we've been doing church stuff for a long time a certain way, and it stopped working. So three things. One, all of this stuff exists because people made it up. Which doesn't make sense.
It's all invented.
That's my favorite revelation. I constantly look around and be like, that person does not know. If I'm that age and I don't know what I'm doing, they don't know.
which like that hopefully does a couple things. One is like detach yourself from like your dependencies on that thing. Someone invented that. Right? So this wasn't downloaded from on high. Someone invented that. So stop putting so much freaking pressure on this machine that someone built. Like, it's failing now. It's failing you specifically. That's fine. Someone made it. They were inspired at some point, and they built something as beautifully as they could. That's actually what happened. So which does two things. One, this is the second point, is one, it sounds like it might be your turn now. Like, if you're carrying a lot of critique and you're really clear on that critique, the next stage is like, okay, so what are you going to do with that? So what are you building or helping make? So make whatever art you're making, like
Yep.
keep doing that because that's probably coming from that place of critique. And do that with the humility of knowing that people before you spent just tons of time, money, like to build things that you now find disappointing, and you're about to do the same. So build the thing that's in your guts to make because you feel like you want to make something more beautiful than what you were just part of. Please, by all means, do it.
Yeah.
And know that the thing you're making a little while from now is gonna be disappointing to other people and to you. So create, but create with the knowledge that like this is just what we do. So stop conflating the thing with the way we do the thing, or the thing with the way we talk about the thing. It's the very beginning of the Tao Te Ching that says the name that can be named is not the eternal name. If you
Hmm.
can name it, if you can pin it down, if you can box it, then we're not really talking about the whole thing anymore. So just let the thing be the thing. You build yours. Let's all do so with a little more grace and patience, including with ourselves. And all that to say, like, make what you have to make. Like, if you got stuff to make, do it. We need it.
I can not to be. I'm not going to be long-winded. I do, and to piggyback off that, I think we're at a real time, and maybe this is me. I feel this too. Is just going. So these institutions or these organizations that I relied on have proven to not work, or they've proven to be false in some ways, or they've aligned with a toxic power. What do I think to be true? Does that mean that I'm not going to find innate dignity in all human beings, or am I? And like, I feel really like coming back to Christ. I'm just like, when Christ talks about there's this kingdom that's different than the other kingdom, like more and more, I'm like, oh, yeah. Because the kingdom I live in is saying, but these people aren't really humans anymore, or they're not supposed to be humans here.
Yes.
And so we can treat, and like, no, that's not the kingdom I'm a part of. And so now I feel that real tension of like, what do you really value? And it turns out there's millions and millions and millions and millions of other people who feel very similar. So we're really being asked, because of this like evil that is running throughout our whole world, we're being asked to be like, well, what do you really believe to be true, and are you going to live that out? So, and then what art would we make about that? What songs, what poems, what things will we say?
Yeah.
That's kind of, we're in that, and it feels really awful because we thought that the adults would be already smart enough, and it turns out they're not. And then so now we're the adults. We're the adults we're waiting for. There's no other adults that are going to come in. We're the adults that we're waiting for.
One
So
one might one might also, potentially even say, may the terror I feel in the absence of what used to be become hope for what is next. May my sense of loss forge a sensitivity in me to the presence of newness, or at least the hope for it. Teach me to see absence as possibility.
mm,
I think
yeah.
that's such a beautiful piece that you chose to share because as you were both talking, I was thinking about how the mystery of faith and of the Christ story and the indefinable nature of so much of it has always been what drew me in. The fact that when someone would put a practice or a belief into a box and say, here you go, this is what your Christianity, this is what your faith looks like. My response was often, I doubt it, and break the box right open. I can't be, if you can limit it, that sounds more like you. And as a young person, I was asking these questions and being, told to stop asking questions frequently. Um,
Yes.
but I think that invites that mystery invites those of us who maybe aren't writers or aren't painters or feel limited by our ability to draw or our inability to take photographs well to whatever we would call beautiful, right? I think that allows those of us who are afraid to call ourselves artists into that creative space to say, well, what if you are? What if you
Yes.
are? And that's part of what's been waiting to burst forth and influence and impact, like you said, with this book, a cultural moment, not just the people who buy a copy and say, oh, this is well done, but that it actually resets the relationship you have with people that you're afraid to be honest with now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. I mean, I think this book is the way that the way that I see this book is like, this is a really helpful handhold on a really difficult day. in a really difficult season. I don't know if this is the like manifesto for for a cultural changeover, but this is really helpful on the day you need it. But I hope it is part of a larger community. I would even say like a spirit that is speaking to us about the thing in a consumeristic society that you've lost. The power that you had is your ability to create, and creativity is the antidote to evil. And so, if we want to stand against evil, it's going to come through creativity, creative process, creative expression, create. And that doesn't mean like go buy an art studio and get some paints. It means just like, what do you want to create in the world?
Yes.
How are you going to host dinner parties? Where are you going to spend your time? Where are you going to say this is valuable? Like, nothing is valuable to you until you build a relationship with it. So where are you building relationship? Is it only on your phone? Is it in a neighborhood? Is it in a community? Is it these are the questions we're being asked right now. Yeah.
Whew, that was really well put, Scott. Specifically because the other night I was, just as a personal story, struggling and trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I'm like, I'm going to yoga class, no question. And my
Yeah.
friend was like, I'll meet you there. And I'm okay, great. Because it was in a different part of this building that we go to. And she's like,
Mm-hmm.
come to my house. Okay. So I drive across town past the building we're supposed to be meeting at, thinking like, weird that she wanted me to come to her house. But here I am. I pulled up to her door and forgot that 3 months ago she moved down the street from me. She was around the corner, and I called her and said, so I'm at your old house and we're going to be late. She's like, that's okay. You're under a lot of pressure. Why don't you just come over and we'll do
Yeah.
yoga here? And I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, okay. And I walked in. I burst into tears because I was under a lot of pressure. We didn't end up doing yoga. But when we left, my husband and daughter even came over to hang out. And when we left, we were like, that felt like home again. There
Mm,
was no agenda. We had tea and talked about life. And then we moved on. And that's what we've been missing. We've been
mm,
missing this creative space to just sit and be what we need to be with the
That's
people
good.
that make us feel like we belong. And
yeah.
I think um, that willingness to be vulnerable, I think, is what we're battling in a lot of people right now. Battling is not even the right word. I think we're making space for people to practice being vulnerable. And
Yes.
there's a lot of resistance to it because the resistance is safety for what they've experienced so far. And so
Mm.
I really have loved the In the Low because of where it's brought some vulnerability for me to turn and read it to people and say, how does this sentence hit for you? Because tears are streaming down my face. And I'm like, I think it's going to resonate with you too. And it has opened something new. And I think that is such a gift from both of you for your work.
Thank you. I love that sister said, we have yoga at home.
Yeah.
That's what she
Yeah.
That's very good.
It's like, you can come do that here. We don't have to go anywhere.
I love
Yoga.
that.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys also are touring with the Low Show right now. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's there are lots of ways to talk about it. It's a comedy about depression. It's a work that's actually more like parallel to the book.
Yeah.
So less of like we're traveling and reading. It's a lot of the show grows out of like the things that we've learned while making and discussing the book. So it's like a partner in the thing, and it's a lot of fun as a show, and it is actually quite funny. There is definitely some poignant moments, but it's a collaborative, really fun evening. It's a communal evening, and I don't think we've done one that's at all even really like the same as the other.
Yeah,
Every
well,
night.
we're figuring it out still. I mean, it's a work in progress, but there's lots of art making, people there's like group interaction, there's group conversations. We do art like Visio Divina together. Um, and then we present stuff. But yeah, it is more of like this. It's not we're not a book tour where we're just reading parts of the book. It's like, hey, there is this pattern that we're seeing in a human life that I think let's lay it out for you and go, this is a pattern you're going to have to constantly engage in. And where are you at in that? Um, and kind of like an encouragement to like, okay, and then create out of that. That's what you're being invited to do in your life, with a lot of jokes and stories and some group singing and things like that. So yeah, it's fun.
Perfect. Group singing is exactly what soothes the nervous system, which is, I think, why so many of us miss worship all the time so much. I will say that as like a little throwaway comment. But
Yeah, we're in Kansas City next week, and then we are headed to Western Baptist University, and Josh Capehart is opening.
you'll be thrilled to know, especially since I think Western is now called a different name. So it'll be hard to find
is
it.
that what Corbin is now?
Oh,
Is
yes,
that
it's Corbin. Yeah.
Corbin, yeah.
Well, then we'll probably cancel that show.
Well, you can always, we can do a house show anytime. We've got space. So Southern Oregon awaits. You guys, this has been absolute joy, which I think is the perfect example of why working with our low states and our experiences is crucial. It is what brings us back to a place where laughter doesn't feel like a falsehood. It feels like a return to who we are and who we're becoming. So thank you both for being here. Listeners, there will be lots of show notes and links for you guys to learn more and to buy a copy of The Low, which I highly recommend. Like, just buy a box of them and give them out as gifts.
Yeah, that's
nothing wrong with that.
That's the takeaway from this. Buy a box of books.
Buy a box of books. Anything else you two want to share before we wrap this up?
I will say with our publisher Baker Books, it's on a fantastic sale right now. So it is really good. It is a great gift. I think I haven't really publicly made like a Instagram about this and stuff, but when people are going through grief or something really hard and you're like, I want to give them something. I mean, art is a really great thing, but then there's also like, I want to give them a book. And I have in my past given like a grief observed, which is okay. There's a book by Sitster, which is like Grace Disguised, which is about loss and death. And that one's tough. I think this is going to like take the pedestal of like going through shit and what book do you give, because it honors where you're at and it doesn't ask you to like feel differently. It just like gives compassion to the place you're at. And I think it is like a book that I don't think people would be like, why did you give this to me? I'm not, because it's like, it says right at the beginning, it's like, we're not broken. It's just like, we're going through something human. And I really hope, not for my own benefit and Justin's benefit, but that's the hope is like, gosh, what do you give to people who are going through something? I think this is a really compassionate companion during that time. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, thank you guys for being
here. Yeah. Thanks, Mandy, for having us.
Making all this time, and continue making the art that's changing the world. Because I think you're right. I think it is.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for listening to episode 225 of Restorative Grief. This conversation was full of joy and laughter because it is a byproduct of being in the low. Our capacity to laugh can return, and that is just one of the ways we learn and expand in this grief work and in these spaces of heaviness. So I hope this chat was a reminder to you on your own grief journey that the dark places aren't always going to feel so scary. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you for joining me and being a part of the restorative grief community. This work began as a way to create grief literacy for those in care deserts and continues as a balm for overworked and grieving souls around the world. If you're interested in learning more or supporting the work, visit mandykapehart.com. Please check out the show notes as well to get your own copy of Justin and Scott's latest book, and definitely follow both of them on social media because they are truly living this work as embodied wisdom, and we all need a little more of that in our lives. Thank you, as always, to the patrons of this work. You are such a gift, and I am endlessly grateful for you. And of course, before we go, one last thing. Please remember, the only solution for grief is to do the work of grieving. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week.